And you're welcome. We're still continuing with our coverage of the vetting of Martin Amidu, the person who's been nominated to fit into the office of the special prosecutor. Well, Ghana is readying itself, of course, for that special prosecutor, as the nominee, Martin Amidu, has been touting his track record and arguing out why the office of the special prosecutor is a better approach to retrieving monies stolen from the state and decongesting our prisons. He is also saying that he is ready to muddy himself to block the slippages and leakages to avoid possible social disturbances, and will be going back to Parliament very soon. He's been answering some questions, and today his 25-page critique of the Special Prosecutor's Bill has been subjected to intense scrutiny vis-a-vis the role that he's been nominated for. He's been giving some answers, and you could say that some of those answers does open up a Pandora's box of what happened prior to his dismissal, what happened prior to the prosecution of Alfred Agbesi, but most importantly, what his plan is for the office that he's about to occupy. That is, if he is approved. Linda Kwafo is with the GII, Ghana Integrity Initiative. He's on the line to have, a very quick conversation about what has happened in Parliament so far. Ma'am, thank you very much for your time here on the Pulse. Now, let me take your initial thoughts, initial remarks of what has happened today in Parliament.
Thank you very much. For me, I think the vetting has gone on smoothly. So far, so good, and this was expected because we know the man, and we know how he takes his time to actually present his case. So he's actually been doing that since morning, and I think the questioning has not been bad. And I'm very much happy. I have not witnessed parliamentarians trying to present themselves in any partisan manner, and I think they are doing as good by actually putting the national interest before any other interest that they might have in this matter. The chairman has also not been bad in giving people opportunities to ask questions appropriately, and where he needs to actually take decisions, hard decisions he does. And so for me, I think Martin has been great, and the people asking the questions have equally done very well.
Now, you speak about working towards the national interest, and by this, I'm sure that you're referring to both sides and the way they've conducted themselves and the kinds of questions that they've asked. What are the things that are striking to you as a person who is in the anti-graft, industry, and that convinces you that both sides seem to be looking at a particular national interest devoid of their partisan biases?
Before I answer that question, even from the way and manner the nominee has responded to the questions, you get a sense that he really knows what he's about, and that he is not actually going to allow anybody to intimidate him or anybody to try to influence his decisions so far as the work of the special prosecutor is concerned. He knows very much what the law says, and if you listen to a few of the comments he was making about the board and the fact that they're supposed to concentrate on policies, the issue about the Attorney General doing actually entering and not prosecute and without consulting him, and he thinks any good lawyer wouldn't want to do that. And I think the man is really talking about and emphasizing the need for there to be much independence so far as his work is concerned. And I think it's sending signals to all those that he will be working with. I also like the bit about he admitting that he's going to work with a team. And he actually expects, he can actually not vouch for them because they both develop differently, but he actually going to show leadership that he believes his team are going to follow. When it comes to the politicians or the parliamentarians, I must say, for me, I am very impressed. And I'm impressed because I'm yet to witness. They've all been asking very fair questions. Most of these questions were expected. And so for me, they've all asked very good questions that is actually bringing out the best out of the nominee that we currently have. And if all goes well, I'm sure they would be able to approve him, also bearing in mind we have a matter in court that has to be determined for us to get out of this whole conversation.
Since you mentioned him before, I actually wanted us to finish with the questioning and everything and the way the vetting itself was conducted. But since you've mentioned Mr. Amidu and the way he's answered the questions, he seemed to project the idea that he is not here to necessarily succeed because he's just a single person. He says, and he states quite categorically, that he accepted a nomination to try, not to be successful per se. Does that give you enough conviction of his ability to get through with this?
I am sure the man has shown a lot of commitment to this work. The father even made reference to the father. No other president has in the past set up such an office. So for him, I want to agree or believe that he knows that this is a new era, an era. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about a new era in the fight against corruption, where he's being given an opportunity to be able to do more than we have been able to do in the past. So this is something I think he really relishes, and he's actually going to work towards achieving same. Secondly, obviously, no one person can actually eliminate or minimize corruption drastically without working with others. So that is another recognition I've actually noticed that he has taken no judicial notice of, and I'm sure he would be willing to work and cooperate with others in dealing with the matter. I'm not a bit worried. Actually, he's stating the fact. It is not easy fighting corruption. But there's something that he said that I have emphasized in the past. Anytime I was asked the wish list of cases that he's supposed to deal with, he actually said he will not be able to say that now. And any matter that has that qualifies for it to be investigated would be investigated. There's something else that he also said that has to do with the fact that he cannot be biased in selecting cases and trying to investigate some cases relating to one particular party or the other, because the public will be watching, the society will be watching, and even lawyers and judges who know the work that he's going to do are also going to watch him, and the people are not going to allow him. Basically, I've said that in the past. If we think that he is going to concentrate on a particular group of people, then that will not happen, because those organizations that work hard towards we having this new act, Act 959, would not sit down and allow one person to act outside what the law allows him to do. So we'll keep on monitoring the process. We are going to be distant from him, but we should be able to monitor the process, see how well he's going to implement the law to the latter, so we can get the kind of result that we are looking for.
And speaking of which, he was referred to one of his articles in which he refers to a powerful cabal within the government. And he was asked who this or these cabals are and how he intended to deal with them. I'm not sure if you remember the exact answer he gave to that, but he says that he's got the civil society, including persons like yourself, like the Ghana Integrity Initiative, responding to that article and taking action on that article that he wrote. Now he's saying that he's going to see people more as suspected criminals and not as party people, and that's how he intends to deal with this. What are your comments on that, the way he responded to that particular question?
Actually, if I was the one being interviewed.
It seems that we've lost Linda Kwafo there. Linda Kwafo is with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. We'll try and raise her back on the line. And I was just asking her about the response that Mr. Martin Amidu gave to the question concerning how he was going to deal with the sort of powerful cabal within the government, within the NPP administration that he refers to, and the answer that he gave. He says that he's going to try to be as impartial as possible and be the moral compass. Let's take some highlights from the vetting which happened not so long ago. Very soon we'll be touching base with our correspondents on the ground as well to get some reactions from the persons who were involved in this exercise. Watch this.
I've been accused of personalizing things and acting one man. This is going to be an office, and I would rather think that we should wait for the full component of the office so that knowledge will be shared, and then we will do a collective action. But one thing I wish to assure you is that we will employ investigators who must be independent and impartial. Prosecutors must be independent and impartial. We will take them through vetting, and I'm hoping that civil society and donor community who are all interested in the exercising the canker will help us to put in place the best staff and instill the best culture, so that when I leave, it should be able to go on.
Very timely intervention there. I still have Linda Kwafo back on the line. Linda, you were making a point about how your impression on that answer, that particular answer to dealing with the powerful cabal within the NPP administration?
Thank you very much. I'm sure that was one of the most difficult questions you would ever ask. Actually, if you are asked to name people that you suspect to be engaging in acts of corruption, and we all know there are cabals so far as these kind of issues are concerned, I'm not sure the man was going to answer or mention any names. Obviously, wouldn't do that. Secondly, when it comes to civil society organizations, donor community who are very much interested but do not openly discuss these matters because they respect the sovereignty of every state, they actually discuss some of these matters with us, and we get to know. And so if he actually says that we are going to help, we will help, as we have been doing in the past. You know, we have the capacity to bring to the fore matters of this nature. Media brings it up, we discuss the issue, where we also have information we provide. And we actually worked with government in putting together this beautiful bill that we currently have, and we are getting somebody to help us implement. So we are going to continue to help him. We are going to do the monitoring. We are going to make sure he actually makes information about his work public as required by the Act and everything that we have to do. We are not only going to hold him to account to the people, but we are actually going to monitor the process and also provide the support that we have actually been providing in the past to do this work. Donors continue to help us, but the kind of work that we do, we are supported by donors. We don't have the mandate that he has, but we have the capacity to support him in his work, just like the media would do in this process.
And obviously, you do have the voice. And so, in the last soundbite that I played of him, he's talking about employing investigators, creditable investigators, and he's hoping that civil society organizations and donor agencies will help as well. How do you intend to help the Office of the Special Prosecutor achieve this goal that he seems to have? That is, if he's approved.
Oh, okay. I must say that when it comes to hiring investigators, that is what the law allows him to do. The law actually makes provision for that, for him to hire people to work with, and even consultants and experts when the need arises. When it comes to what we would actually do, I am yet to discuss. Civil society will have to discuss these matters. You already know civil society is going to have civil society working in the anti-corruption arena. We are going to have a representative on the board. So that will be one way we are going to support. We might not necessarily be investigators or people handling big-time issues like the charges, the UOCOs, and the rest, but then we have representation on the board. We'll be providing advice on policy. We're supposed to be presenting reports to Attorney General. We're going to oversee that all these things will happen. That is one way we are going to help. But from the broader society outside the board, I'm sure we will decide and plan exactly how we can support. But the work we've been doing, not making public officials just rest and then holding them to account. Once Mr. Martin Amidu is approved and he becomes the first special prosecutor, we would follow the law and ensure that he acts within the law. As I said, we will speak. We don't just stop speaking. We will speak. It doesn't matter who has the job. We have confidence to be able to do the job, but we will continue to monitor him to ensure he does the work. And
this is a conversation that's been going on for some time. So I would have thought that at this point you may have some tangible plans, or some names already even.
Okay, so let me help you do something. You know, since this discussion about the special prosecutor came up, we actually organized roundtable discussions. Then from there, we sent a memo to the Attorney General. We sent a memo to Parliamentary Select Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs. We actually then helped the committee to do the clause-by-clause review of the draft law. And finally, we present I think one-page memo, and then we have the law passed. After the law has been passed, we're supported by staff and to do this job. We are now preparing a new program to be able to support the Special Prosecutor's Office. That's why I said, in developing the law, we made sure that we have a civil society representation on the board. So that will be the first step that we are going to help the special prosecutor to do the work by having a representation on the board. Subsequent specific things sometimes do not fall within, we can't just think about them unless the need arises. But we will plan. We have developed another program yet to get funding to implement any specific actions. But we will continue to help him to do the job. That's what I've said earlier on. The way we've been doing it is the way we will do it.
So what's this program about? You say that you're preparing a new program that's supposed to support the special prosecutor.
We are waiting for funding. When we get funding and we roll it out, you get to know.
But then what's it supposed to do? What's it supposed to achieve? Support him how? In just the recruitment or?
Oh, no, we don't have, I'm sure you have to study the law heavily. The recruitment of people to even fill the office does not rest with the special prosecutor. It actually rests with the president when it comes to the staff to fill the office. The way society organizations work is that we actually have to know what the law says, and we ensure that the law is being implemented. So if the law says we are supposed to work with 10 people, then 10 people is what we are going to work with. And if he goes on or we have 12 people, then we can raise the issue against we having 12 people, and then making sure we actually conform to what has been provided for in the law. If the law says that you cannot just get up and follow any matter, or if the law says that you're supposed to deal with allegations of corruption or any corruption case that comes before you, then the special prosecutor cannot wake up one morning and say that this matter came without giving any justification not to conduct an investigation. I will not conduct. We will not let that happen. The same way the media works is the same way society contributes to implementing laws and working with state-owned institutions. If there is a need for programs to be organized, discussions to be organized, we have expertise in that, and we should be able to collaborate with the Office of Special Prosecutor under the provisions of the law. For us, we believe in the rule of law, and we want to stick to what the law has provided. So I will not sit here and tell you that the next 2 weeks we are going to organize a meeting with him to discuss how. No, if the law does not actually allow us to do that, then we will not be able to do that. So we are actually going to work with him according to what the law has provided.
Did you say you have representation on the board?
So that organization, if you look at the Act 959, has provided for a number of people to constitute the board that will work with the Office of Special Prosecutor. Among the nominees should be a civil society representative which has expertise in anti-corruption matters and actually representing all CSOs working on corruption and corruption issues. So we are going to elect somebody to represent us on the board. That is what will happen. So I meant civil society organizations in the anti-corruption arena will have a representation on the board of the SP.
Okay. Speaking of the board, there was a question about interference and how independent the special prosecutor himself will be if the board has the power to interfere in the work that they do. And on that particular question, Mr. Amidu himself admits that the law ought to be looked at again. But what he says is that we will find a way. That is not convincing enough.
The board does not have the right to interfere in the day-to-day activities of the special prosecutor. The board is a governing board just like any other organization. So the board chair cannot wake up in the morning and go and tell him, Honorable Martin Amidu, you are supposed to discuss this matter, not that matter. The board will not have the capacity and the authority and audacity to do that. The law does not allow him. It's a governing board that is supposed to oversee the policies that are necessary for the smooth running of the special prosecutor's office and the kind of work that they do. And the board, like, is supposed to be sending reports, I think twice a year or so, to the Attorney General. The board will have to make sure that all these things that's happening is supposed to publish reports in the dailies as well. All these things will be under the supervision of the board, but the board does not have the right. I don't know whether he answered the question. The board will interfere. No, the board cannot interfere in the day-to-day administration or running of this office. It does not have to work that way.
Again, there was a question about protecting people from media trial. That's a question that Mr. Amidu himself seems to have a difficulty answering. So first of all, he says that the Act 191 report indicates that reports should be submitted periodically, and by submitting such reports, it's likely that the people you're investigating, you have names of the people you're investigating pop out there, and that's what the media will perhaps feed on. Now, you are an anti-corruption organization. You thrive on the media because the media projects your voice. I'm curious to find out what you think about this position. Keeping people who are being investigated, the names of people who are being investigated, protected, and avoiding a media trial, but also putting out this information, putting out this information out there so that the public is aware of what is being done. It seems to be a very delicate balance there, and I'm curious to find out what you think or what you make of that.
I am not sure how delicate this is going to be, in the sense that, as we sit here, any matter that goes to court, we get to know this. It's only matters that have not gone to court. Sometimes you get to know Shraj is investigating a matter, and you call them so that we are actually doing some investigations into the matter. They don't mention anybody's name. So then if the matter comes up, if the OSP or Special Prosecutor is investigating a boss issue, for instance, we all get to know. Now, NCA matter is in court. We all know the people that go to court every morning. So some of these things cannot be. I don't see why we need to protect anybody who has been sent to court. I think what is going to happen is if they are doing any kind of investigations that has not come to the fore, and that does not necessarily have to come to the fore, they will find a way of not communicating that to us. But then if now we all get to know the Special Prosecutor has taken Mr. A, B, and C to court, and the matter is before the law court, we don't need any kind of protection for such people. Nobody has actually pronounced them guilty of any crime. They are just people under investigations. So for those ones, the names will come up. But I think there are other matters that the names don't necessarily have to come up if they don't have enough evidence. I'm sure when it gets to that stage, we would be able to find a very good balance and not necessarily create problems for people who are just under investigations. As for those who go to court, it's a public matter.
I think the question was actually referring to those who are being investigated, who have not yet been charged.
Yes, so if you have not been charged, then the name shouldn't come out. I'm not sure there is an outline.
Now that's the thing. So he refers to the ability for such information or the potential for such information to be leaked, because they always get leaked some way, somehow. Now, with the interest that the media has in the special office, office of the Special Prosecutor, it's very likely that the media will be very heavy on this institution if it starts operating.
My point is that if matters are being investigated and does not come to the notice of the public, and it's leaked, it is leaked. It happens all the time. I don't see the sense to which somebody will have to protect somebody because you are being investigated and it is leaked. We will actually have a debate on the media as to how it got leaked, whether it is true or it's not true. All these things will happen. I don't think he has the capacity and the control to be able to, I don't know how he's going to handle that.
No, he doesn't have the capacity. It was actually the Defense Minister, Dominic Nituo, who was asking that usually you find that people are not yet charged, but the moment their names are mentioned, there's a media trial. So his concern was that how is Mr. Martin Amidu's office, if he's approved, how is his office going to ensure that people who are being investigated, who have not necessarily been charged of any crime, will be saved, from the media trial?
Mr. Martin Amidu's office will not be the only investigative office that is dealing with corruption matters. Yoko and the rest, they all deal with corruption allegations and cases of this nature. And so the way and manner they have been protecting people's names from coming to the public is the same way they would have to operate at the SP's office. You have to also remember, we have representatives from Shraj, Yoko, and the rest also on the board. And I'm sure it is for learning, it's for information exchange, it's for them to be able to understand and know, share with the Special Prosecutor how these things are supposed to be done and how we have done in our various organizations. So I think it's the same manner. But if the information gets leaked, just like the media would want to do all the time, I think he doesn't have much control over those. But those that do not come I think they would try to protect the names as much as possible. But if it comes out, I don't know whether people want to sue them, whatever it is. When you get to that bridge, we would cross it. But for now, it's a difficult question to answer.
Okay, it seems to be a lot of difficult questions from your analysis. But two quick things before I let you go. First, about his neutrality. There was a heavy emphasis as well on his neutrality. People wanted to find out whether he can be neutral, whether he hasn't, by some of his articles, by some of his comments about the previous administration, of which he was a part at a point, that he wasn't going to be partial, that he has taken some position that seems to make him partial, biased, perhaps, towards the current administration. He is not able to answer straightforward, for example, whether or not he's still an NDC member. Does that bother you?
I listened to how he responded to that question, and he decided to look at it from the fact that if you are a public officer, by operation of law, you cannot be an active member of any political party. We are all political animals. One way or the other, we might have sympathies for a political party or the other. When it comes to the personality of people, I don't vouch so much for them. I don't talk highly about people in terms of them being neutral or them being people of integrity. It's a very difficult one for me to do because I don't want anybody to disappoint me. The sense to which we have known him is the sense to which we can actually say anything positive about him. But for now, let us wait and see how he would be able to address the issue. Originally, I also thought it was just a straightforward answer of I have resigned or I have not resigned. But then he decided to answer the question based on the operation of law, that because of what the laws and the constitutions of the land say, I cannot be an active member of any political party. So it is automatic. Once I take the office, I am not going to be active in any of these parties. I think it was a fair answer.
Well, there are also concerns about his posture, his body language. In fact, the Member of Parliament for North Tongue was asking whether, actually said that he seemed to have a lot of resentment. Looking at the pattern of his articles, he seems to have a lot of resentment against the previous administration and wanted to be sure whether or not he will be able to. Alhassan Suini, for example, wanted to find out if he will be able to live with people, you know, in harmony, and they're tracing this to the pattern of his articles, the way he is written, the things that he has said.
I didn't hear that aspect of the interview, but then if somebody would not be able to live with people in harmony, then there should be a past record of he not being able to live with people in harmony. We already know, and that there's a petition before the committee in relation to how he actually relates, and a whole lot of. I heard it, I think, yesterday, and we are waiting to see what the committee will do with that. But for me, it's a difficult one for me to answer. Maybe the Honourable Minister that asked the question has any good example. We don't make such statements without any credible evidence. So maybe he has some evidence.
Well, if I could, since you didn't listen to that bit, so Hassan Suini presents him a couple of documents, I think about 3 of them. One is a letter of apology that he had written to Professor Tamils at the time he was alive. One is an article he wrote about Anas, and another on Okujeto Ablakwa, one of the Member of Parliament for North Tongue. And the question was that he should examine the document and answer the question as to whether or not he can live in harmony with others. Now, he says that that letter that was being referred to was he was obtained in ways that he described as apprehensible, and then he says that he cannot live in harmony with criminals. He can live with anyone, but cannot live in harmony with criminals. I'm not quite sure about his response to Okujeto Ablakwa's question about whether or not he has so much resentment towards the former administration. But if you look at the way he answered the question, at a point, even something that was supposed to be a joke, he got quite angry with it, and a couple of the Member of Parliament have to go on and say that was meant to be a joke, and etc. If you look at his facial expressions and all, the way he responded to the answer, how does it strike you as the kind of special prosecutor we'll have if we should finally, he should finally be approved?
Yeah, I think we cannot actually make a judgment only based on his reactions and his actions and inactions at the committee meeting today. I say so because he is not a young man. He's been in existence for quite a long time. People have actually worked under him and worked with him, and people have been his supervisors and the rest in the past. So I'm sure, for me, if you want to pass a judgment as to whether he can live in harmony, that happening today cannot be the only basis for our conclusion. We should actually look at past records of what he has done that tells anybody Martin Amidu is not a man that can live in harmony with people. If he says he cannot live with criminals, then I'm sure he was referring to he not being able to live peacefully with people who engage in acts of corruption. Obviously, we would need this kind of posture to put some kind of fear in people that engage in acts of corruption. But I don't know him as a person, and I cannot actually pass the judgment on his reactions and his actions and inactions today during the period the question was posed to him. Let us look at his past records, and we can get more information on that.
Linda, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Linda Ofori-Kwafo is Executive Secretary of the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, with some analysis there looking at the way that Mr. Amidu answered the questions, the kind of questions that came his way, and the body language, if you like, his facial expressions, etc.